20 minutes. It is our guy, the one and only, the sage from Joe Bucs fan, Ira Kaufman. What a shirt, brother. What a shirt.
We start off with a test, Jay. I think it's 3-1 against it. You don't know who this is. 3-1.
Let me lean back. Let me see who it is. Is that the great John Denver?
Man's name is Dwayne Allman, Jay.
Dwayne Allman from the Allman Brothers.
Dwayne Allman, the late, great Dwayne Allman, died in a motorcycle accident, 24 years old. The leader, the man in the Allman Brothers, and my favorite guitarist, Jay, my
really?
favorite. Yeah.
Favorite guitarist of all time. Mine's Eric Clapton. I'm a Clapton guy.
That's strong.
Clapton, Carlos Santana, B.B. King. Those are my three guys.
Well, wait a minute, Jay. Now, Eric and Dwayne combined on the Layla album, which was a monumental pairing. I don't think anything's come close to it. Anyway, I want to wish you safe driving, Mr. Recher. Safe driving.
Thank you.
I just got off the driving range. Hit about 60 balls.
Really?
I shot a 72 last week, and then I made the turn, Jay. And I made the turn.
I was going to say, what was that, 72 on 6? What the hell? That's an unbelievable record there, my friend. Listen, you're the only non-former or current pro athlete on the program today, but your name stacks up with the rest. If you had to go pro in one sport, what would it be?
I would say basketball, Jay.
Really?
I had good floor vision. I was like a TJ McConnell in my day in the schoolyard in Brooklyn. The problem was, Jay, I drive the lane, I beat my man off the dribble, and then there's a 6'2" guy, and I'm 5'6", and I get up in the air, and Jay, once I'm in the air, you can't slide a piece of paper under my sneakers. I mean, that's the vertical jump I had, and then I was stuck. So, in the words of John Wooden, you don't jump up to pass. You jump up to shoot, and I never learned that, Jake. Never learned it.
Unbelievable. Move your camera up a little bit so we can see your lovely mug.
There you go, baby.
Shout out to our friends from Joe Bucs fan. This guy needs a coconut donut. Shout out to Steve Lee and everybody over there at Joe Bucs fan.
Hey, I'm feeling very good about my Giants all of a sudden. I'm feeling good, baby.
Let's start there, and of course, get all of the great Bucs stories, churning out content. I mean, I'm up in the middle of the night sometimes, and I'm like, Joe Bucs fan just posted. What? You guys are all over the place. I love it. All right, so give me your. Adames has not really lived up to expectations, but it's a long contract. It's still early, still adjusting. I mean, a huge deal. Buster Posey at the helm. Your San Francisco Giants acquire Rafael Devers to maybe play third. He's not going to play there when Chapman's healthy, but first DH, but a huge bat. A guy with a championship pedigree. What are your thoughts on the deal, Ira?
Well, you mentioned the right name, Jay. It's Buster Posey. This got Posey written all over it, and I'm glad he did it because, Jay, they've wasted a lot of great pitching. They're a top 5 ERA, team ERA. Their bullpen is really good. They got this guy, Rich Rodriguez, gives the ball to Doval in the ninth. But then, they're crawling along, losing 2-1 and 3-2 a lot, even though they're 10 games over 500. So Posey saw an opportunity. Yeah, he gave up prospects, Jay. He gave up prospects. I know all these guys. I follow the Giants very closely. Kyle Harrison, he's got a chance to be decent. This guy Tibbs, I think the 13th pick in the draft last year.
Florida State guy, so a lot
Florida
of guys
State, that's right. He's got 12 homers in Class A. So he's got a potent bat. He's a bad fielder, so they don't know where to put him. But anyway. Jay, now they got Devers in the middle of that lineup. Chapman's got 12 homers. Adames is starting to hit. All of a sudden, this lineup doesn't look that bad. Verlander's pitching tomorrow night. He's been out a month. So, Jay, in my wildest dreams, they're not going to beat out the Dodgers over 162 games. They're not. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. The Dodgers are playing the Padres right now. Oh, I'm a Giants fan. Who the hell am I going to root for? I'm going to root for the Dodgers because they got a much better chance of finishing second ahead of San Diego than catching the Dodgers. But, Jay, in the postseason, anything can happen when you got a good pitching staff.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What do you so where does this rank them in the entire NL? Do you have the hierarchy Dodgers, Mets still? Where do you have the Mets when it comes to the hierarchy? Dodgers are obviously one, even if they don't finish with the best record. I mean, they just have so much talent. Man, they're injured list roster could win 97 games in the league. Do you have the Mets at number 2?
I think I do, Jay. I think they're solid. Their pitching's also very good. But that's okay. I'll take a wild card berth. Jay, look, it's been a long time for the Giants. I mean, a long time. They won those 3 titles in 5 years. It was a fantastic time to be a San Francisco fan, Jay. And then, I don't know if you remember, in 2016, I think when the Cubs won it all or something, they played the Cubs in a playoff, and it was a pretty good playoff series. And then, Jay, out of nowhere, they won like 106 games like 3 years ago and lost the game 5, deciding game to the Dodgers. I think it was 1-0. So, Jay, even when they were winning those championships, they did not have a very good hitting team. It was all built on pitching and defense. And, boy, you get Devers that bat in the middle, Jay, it could make a big difference.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you think about those teams that won those championships. There was a stability to Posey and Belt and Panic and Crawford and Pablo Sandoval coming up big, and all those great starting pitchers that they had, and guys like Sergio Romo in the back end of the bullpen. They had some good players up and down. All right, who's got a better chance of coming back down from 3-2 in their series? The Edmonton Oilers or the Indiana Pacers?
I would say neither, but I'm going to say Edmonton. But I'll tell you what, Jake, the Panthers, boy, they're good. Yeah. Man, they're good. Maurice is doing a heck of a job. They don't give you any breathing room. That's why, I was very surprised that the Oilers could come back the way they did. It was in Game 4, right, Jay? Mm-hmm. I didn't think they could do that against a Florida team. That shows you the firepower Edmonton's got. I still don't think McDavid has really going in terms of a goal scorer. He's racking up a lot of assists, but it wouldn't hurt for a couple of goals from McDavid. I'm a Guy Lafleur man, Jay, to my bones, and until McDavid is carrying that Stanley Cup around, I got to put the Flower ahead of him. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. And as much as assists are great and getting everybody else involved, I mean, when you're that good, you have to put the puck in the back of the net. That's what separates you from everybody else. What separates you from everybody else is because you look at this Buccaneers team with such a unique perspective over the years. And Ian Beckel sends his best. We had him on the program yesterday. He said he always enjoyed chopping it up with you in the locker room. It was always a fun laugh and a fun comment. You and I spoke a couple of months ago, and you and I both agreed that 9.5 wins seemed a little bit low for the Buccaneers. I'm actually even more optimistic about the Bucs since the last time we spoke a couple of months ago. What about you after mandatory minicamp? Are you more optimistic or less?
Well, Jay, you know me well over the years, and I don't often say this. I'm very bullish. I'm very bullish on this roster. Now, look, the defense got a long way to go, but they don't have to go to top 5. They got to go to 15. Mm-hmm. I don't see any reason with all, unless Grizzard doesn't know what the heck he's doing at all. Jay, I don't think you can screw up this offense. Right. I mean, Mayfield's in his prime. Bucky Irving isn't going anywhere. I think he's got a chance to get 2,000 scrimmage yards, not rushing yards, but scrimmage yards. And I think they'll keep a close eye on not wearing him out. I understand it's a fine line. But, Jay, every time that kid's got the ball in his hands, I'm expecting a 30-yard run or a 40-yard catch. I think he makes this whole offense go. And the offensive line is really good and tight. So barring injuries, Jay, they scored 29.5. I don't see why they can't have maybe the top offense in football. Todd Bowles, Jay, tell me what you think. He talked about looking over the films with a fine-tooth comb in the offseason.
Right.
Then he had some kind of revelation, an epiphany, whatever you want to call it. And he can't, he can or he won't detail exactly what it is. I'll tell you what it should be, Jay, watching the 18 games, including the playoff loss. Stop giving the receivers 12 yards off the line. That's the epiphany. Mm-hmm. So I just don't think that he thought the pass rush was good enough to help out, and he didn't have that much confidence. in a battered secondary, which was using backups a lot. Winfield wasn't doing anything. And I just don't think he had any confidence in the secondary, and he didn't want balls flying over their head. Well, Jay, they didn't give up a lot of balls over their head, but they sure gave up a lot of balls. And I was at that game in Atlanta, week 5. I'll never forget it. Kirk Cousins, he couldn't move before the injury. Now he's coming off an injury. They can't move him off the spot. 509 yards. It was pitch and catch. I was absolutely revulsed by that game, Jay. And we can't see. And I'm glad Atlanta's the first guy because you know what? You flex your muscles from the start and show them who's boss.
Yeah, I'm with you. I could understand. I mean, you think about the combination. Like this year, you're going to have Hassan Reddick and maybe like a Benjamin Morrison, right, as your combo pass rusher and corner. Last year, you're having Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and like a Josh Hayes at time, right? So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, and you're losing by death of 1,000 paper cuts, pretty much, by giving up that many things underneath, and especially early in the game. And I think when you're looking at a rhythm offense like you have with Kirk Cousins, if you do that, right, you let him complete those short passes, he starts feeling good about himself, and then those intermediate passes open up, and then he turns into the next coming of Johnny freaking Unitas against the Bucs, when against everybody else he looked like Johnny Bananas, like he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
And Jay, I could go back to the Denver game, which was week 3, and the Bucs were 2-0. Now they're playing at home. Now, we didn't know Denver was going to end up as a pretty good team, and I think they're really a team on the rise. But, Jay, that's the only team I think that's the only team that really made the Bucs look bad last year was Denver. And if you remember the first quarter, Bo Nix didn't start the season well. First 2 weeks, not very good. He looked like a rookie. And he comes into Tampa, and, Jay, once again, Sutton for 8 yards, Sutton for 12 yards, hits the tight end for 9. There's nobody around the ball, Jay. There's nobody around the ball. Now, the Bucs were going to lose that game anyway because they scored 7 points. But you know what I mean. Too often this year, pitch and catch, and the passes were not contested.
Yeah, and it's funny because you and I, like we do every halftime, we got together and we had no confidence and I don't know if it's just the way that game was going. You and I were just like, they're not going to win this game. Like, it didn't matter. It didn't matter they were 2-0 and Denver was 0-2. Like, it's just the way that game was going. We've seen enough.
I even put down my Cuban sandwich to talk to you that day. Yeah.
We know the lie detector test determined that was a lie. The defense reminded me of corned beef and Newport Richie, flimsy, weak, and repulsive. You got that right, buddy.
Jay, I'm not thrilled, and look, I tend to go off on a tangent about this. I've been talking about it for years. But Jay, if you got championship aspirations, and I think the Glazers do this year, I think they do, with some justification. I don't know. Can you do better than Kyle Trask as the backup? I've been off on this tangent. People say, well, who's around? If you lose your quarterback, you're done anyway. Well, Jay, what if Mayfield's out a month? What if he misses 4 games? I don't want to go 1-3.
It's going to tread water for you, right?
Tread water. I don't want to go 1-3, Jay. I'm sorry. So I'd like a little bit more experience. Now, look, they know Trask very well. He knows the offense. I mean, I've heard all the excuses, but Jay, I'd like a guy who's thrown more than 11 NFL passes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's just a familiarity with the system that they like, right? I mean, it's you and I spoke about this a couple of years ago too, when you're talking about that this team has been very lucky when it came to their health. And even last year, I mean, in the middle of the season, they lose Godwin and Evans, and then you go into Kansas City and you take the freaking champs to overtime, which I think says a lot about the team as a whole and Baker Mayfield. And I look at that situation. If Baker goes down, they're probably screwed anyway. But who else would you get? Would you get it like a Teddy Bridgewater type? You bring Jameis Winston back from the Giants? I mean, what do you do? I mean, in a situation like that?
Speaking of Jay, speaking of Bowles, and I think this is an important point to make on your show. And I'm right about this for whatever the reasons are, and there's a myriad of reasons. But Bowles in 3 years, he has not won over Buccaneer Kingdom. He just hasn't won over Buck Nation. They don't like his stoicism on the sidelines. They said the same thing about Dungy. Late game time decisions, which I think has some justification to it. And that's why they brought this guy in from Jacksonville, who had been there for 10 or 12 years, to make some critical calls. I mean, Bowles has a lot on his plate, Jay. And with the game on the line, when do you challenge a call? When do you call a timeout? When do you go for it on 4th and 2? You can't have too many guys in your ear. So they brought this guy in. But, Jay, if Bowles wins the division again, I mean, at some point you got to say the guy's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I've been in the minority. You know me, with half of my family being Giants fan, the other half being Jets fans. I was one of the people that was like, listen, be careful what you wish for, because it crashed and burned there with the Jets and it was not pretty. But I was also one of the guys going into this offseason going, I am not one of those people that are like, hey, get rid of Todd Bowles for Liam Cohen, because there is a lot of things that happen with a team that doesn't have good leadership. Ira, the last 2 years, this team has really struggled in the middle of the season. You're in that locker room. Has anybody talked about jumping ship? Has anybody talked to, has there been any upset people on the pirate ship there? No. Everybody's staying on board. Everybody's like, hey, we'll get out of this. We'll dig out of it. And 2 straight years they did. That doesn't happen with weak leadership. So for a guy like Liam Cohen that can jump and go to Jacksonville and do things in kind of a skeevy type of way, nobody's saying that, you don't go to Jacksonville, but the way he went about it, not answering phone calls, it's like, all right, well, that's how you make your decision when things may not be on the up and up. What happens in the locker room when something happens? You trust Todd Bowles is going to make that right decision. You look at all the leaders defensively, look at all the leaders offensively. They all respect Todd Bowles. And I'm with you. It seems like there's a majority of Bucs Nation that is just here. This is the shoe. They're just waiting for that other shoe to drop. And they're waiting for a 8-9 season to go, see, that guy sucks, get rid of him. Get somebody else. Go get Bill Belichick, which I just read the story on JoeBucksFan.com about Mike Florio and what he had to say. And if you guys missed it, go to JoeBucksFan.com. Could this be Todd Bowles' last season? Could the Buccaneers look elsewhere if they have an underwhelming season? The fact that we can't overwhelmingly say, yeah, no matter what happens this season, Todd Bowles is coming back, Ira, I think answers your question.
In terms of Jay, in terms of establishing a winning culture, you got to give Bowles his due. Now, Jason Light's part of it, Jay, by bringing in the right kind of players. And I think Light learned a lot of lessons after his first 5 or 6 drafts. Mistakes were made, reaches in the first round, reaches in the second round, Aguayo trying to get cute. It's hard to argue with Jason Light's picks the last 5 years, Jay. It's difficult. For every Joe Tryon, you got Antoine Winfield. You got Bucky Irving. You got Luke Gedeke. I mean, they're all over the map here. I think Cansey is going to be a really good player. But then Bowles molds these guys, and it's all for one. And these receivers are not divas, which is rare. And to your point, Jay, you look around the league and distractions and little dramas are being played out everywhere. And it doesn't happen at one Buck place. So, for all of Bowles' skeptics, you got to give him credit when it's due. Okay.
Ira, before I let you go, what is your thought process on Chris Godwin as far as, will he be ready for week 1? Are you concerned about how healthy he's going to be this year, and how much of the selection of Emeka Egbuka had to do with the uncertainty of his preparedness and his readiness for the 2025 season?
Jay, I've got a lot of respect for Jason Light as a talent evaluator. He knows what he's doing. He's got a great staff. But, Jay, when he went to the podium, which he did, and said the selection of Egbuka had nothing to do with Chris Godwin's rehab schedule, that's a bunch of nonsense. I don't say that's the main reason they drafted him, because they thought he was a really clean prospect.
Yes. And
I think they had him as a top 10 on their board.
He's probably one of the highest floor guys. Like, you could say that he may not live up to, being a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro, whatever, but there's no way, and I'm knocking on wood, there's just no way this guy's going to be a bust or a malcontent, or he's just going to be, at the very least, I think, a solid pro in the NFL. Do you agree with that?
You. And, I'm hearing from everybody at one Buck in their descriptions of him, he's another Chris Godwin. That's what you keep hearing. He's Chris Godwin, part 2, and a lot younger. So to answer your question, JR, I'd be a little surprised if Godwin was, ready to go full bore in the middle of training camp. I think it's going to take some time. It was a very serious injury, very serious. And, Bryce Hall told Steve Isbitz, a Joe Bucs fan, last week that, he had a similar injury in week 1, dislocated ankle. And he was out for the whole year. He's running freely, but he said Godwin's injury was worse. It was worse than his. So, now they got Egbuka, and McMillan came on strong, and they still got, Evans, and I think this is a contract year for Otten. I think you'll see a better year for Otten. Who I think, Jay, I think he's kind of better than average tight end already. I think he's better than average. I'd like to see a little more of a downfield threat, but hey, maybe that's what Devin Culp's for.
I'm a huge Devin Culp fan. He looks like a wild stallion out there. He's got good hands. He can run. I'm a huge Devin Culp guy. If he can block, I think he's got the highest ceiling out of Otten, Payne Durham, and Devin Culp.
It could be, Jay, it could be a very interesting decision about whether to extend Otten and give him a contract extension if they think Culp's ready to move in there. Interesting.
If he can block, if both those guys can block, because remember, what did we talk about going into last year? None of these tight ends can block. That's what everybody said. But you change up the offense, and the best block I think all of last year was the crack block that Payne Durham had on one of the D tackles. I think it might have been Derek Brown in Carolina, and just smacked this dude. And I go, that's the guy that can't block, because he looks like he can block pretty darn well to me. The only guy in our area that knows ins and outs of the Tampa Bay Buccaneer, the Sage, Ira Kaufman. JoeBucksFan.com. Go check them out over there. They're on Saturdays on WDAE. Go check them out over there. The Ira Kaufman podcast. They just put one out on the 12th. Minicamp impressions, Bucky Irving futures bet, Hassan Reddick reaction, Baker Mayfield, and all that jazz. Kaufman76 on Twitter. Ira's just one of those guys when he tweets something out, it's not like me who tweets a million things out a day. If Ira's going to tweet something out, it's going to be something about music, something in the middle of nowhere. You just never know where Ira's coming from. But a lot of love for Lee, Steve, and Ira, and everybody over there with our friends over at Joe Bucs Fan. Go check them out today. Not a good, not a great, but a fantastic 20 minutes, my friend. Good luck to your Giants, and hit them straight on the golf course, brother. We'll talk soon.
My pleasure, and drive safe, baby.
Thanks, buddy. The man.